Okay, hello everybody. My name is Matt Hamilton. I'm a developer advocate with the FEM team, and welcome to the track imaginatively titled Reimagining Filecoin's Future, the FEM Approach. So just a little background on this track, and a lot of it is going to be discussion based. We have a few talks. Ison's going to come up and just do a quick little recap of where we are at the moment with FEM, just because we're 6 months from the launch. And we're going to have some discussions. We're going to start off with a discussion about SP services. We've got a number of talks, sort of short talks, and then some more discussion time going on as well. So, yeah, I'm intending this to be fairly interactive within the discussions. I've got some sort of prompts for some of the questions. There's a lot of things that, what's been quite nice is having come up with those kind of questions, a lot of them seem to be questions that are being asked already here at this event, and a few things seem to be getting either answered, or people seem to be working towards where answers might be on those. So that is very good. But really, one of the things that I think I've certainly noticed when FEM has come out is that FEM, I think, has been really the first time in which developers and end users have really been exposed to the entire kind of Filecoin stack, right? It's like, developers come up and like, okay, we want to build something, we want to store some data. So we have to kind of take them right the way through the storage process, which might be involving direct storage deals, might be involving going through aggregators. What's an aggregator? What's a PCID? There's a whole bunch of education around that. Then, getting data back it's a whole other, bit in and of itself as well. So there's a lot of different bits and pieces that they kind of have to get exposed to. And it's highlighted, I think, a number of kind of areas where Filecoin could work better. Some areas that, for certain use cases and users just don't work at all for them. And some cases it's a case of things being pitched at the wrong audience for the wrong thing in many cases, or sort of mismatch between them. So anyway, that's kind of what I want to discuss about. Nysin, do you want to come up in?
And just wanted to recap here where we are in terms of certain milestones that we reached. Earlier this month, September 14th, we celebrated our 6-month anniversary. And earlier in the quarter, we set some goals for ourselves, end of Q3, 6-month anniversary. And we are really pleased to share here some important metrics and why they are important, and what the current states are. So we wanted to reach the 10 million deposits through FEM milestone, and we are, as of today, we reached the 10 million right around our 6-month anniversary, and as of today it's 13.5 million field deposited. And why this number is important for us is that one of our main goals is for FEM, making sure our ecosystem is lively and growing, and more people, users, developers, applications are using, and SPs are able to benefit from the ecosystem that we are creating. And 13.5 million is an important number, because that is the number that then we can enable to loan to SPs, which you will see here, the total borrow number 8.8 million. That means we are able to create an ecosystem to support them as they are accepting the deals and creating this ecosystem for the growth. And that you will always see this a little bit of a lag between 13.5 and 8.8, those two metrics, because our staking protocols, they are also holding some collateral, and there will always be some delay. But this is a sign that actually lately the growth has been accelerating as we have more partners, and thanks to our many partners building on us and working with us, enabling the futures. And another key metric here is that we thought we set a really ambitious goal, being in top 30 DeFi Llama, and as of this morning we reached 29. And DeFi Llama ranks all chains based on TVL definition that's being defined by their measures, and we reached 73 million this week. That implies 22 million Filecoin. And then lastly, the other two metrics that I want to touch on, moving a little from DeFi to developers, other applications being built on FEM, we have over 2,000 unique smart contracts deployed on FVM as of today. And this number implies different applications, not only DeFi related, but data, other builders and teams building projects on FVM. And we have around 200 teams building on FVM today, and this 200 number is much smaller than 2000 because we define teams based on certain criteria in our builder funnel and accelerator funnel. A team means here who has an MVP, either got funding from PL or other investors, have a staff team, and building a product towards a growth trajectory. Lastly, we also reached over 630,000 wallet users on FVM. This number has been growing a lot over this past month, especially with our DeFi growth. With that, I will leave that to Matt to have the discussion. I also want to thank Berix being here and being part of the discussion in person with us, and lots of our other partners. This is an important milestone for us, but if you joined our earlier tracks talking about platform developments, discussions, you probably get a glimpse on what is ahead for FVM future. While this is a great trajectory, we have even more ambitious goals coming for Q4 and Q1. So with that, thanks everyone, and please be part of the open discussion. This is meant to be more of an interactive session. We would love to hear your feedback, questions, comments to incorporate into our roadmap.
Great. Thank you, Aisha. Okay, so to start off, the initial discussion we want to have was about programmatic storage provider services, right? So I've got a few sort of prompt questions here for us to kind of discuss. I was hoping this might follow on from the SP discussion that happened earlier, and we've got people here representing and working on various including bits of software like Boost, for example, that fit in with this how storage happens between kind of FVM and storage providers. What is an example of that, at least? So there's a QR code there. I'll take you through. So we've got this on a discussion. So we've just thrown some of the initial thoughts of this up on a discussion. So for anybody who might be watching this on the video, by all means, scan the QR code, go there, or anybody here who wants to. That's the discussion there. So if you want to continue on with this after this session, or even during this session, then that's where that discussion is going on there. So yeah, like I said, some initial questions here, and feel free to kind of ask your own here as well. This is kind of prompted around the idea that FVM unlocks programmability on the network around storage. So how can that specifically help storage providers in what they're doing, right? So what are the services that SPs can offer? What are their needs from Filecoin and from Filecoin developers? Do SPs want to own the customer? From our discussions earlier, it seemed like that would be something that they are, moving towards. That the SPs individually are kind of acquiring customers and being the kind of the front end of that business. What kind of value-added services can they deploy to go with storage? There was a discussion earlier in Vuk's track in which they were talking about a whole series of things that they can offer, from sealing as a service and compute and things like that as well. How do paid deals work with respect to things like FVM and programmatic storage? How do you move payment from one party to the other? And what products can be developed to service SP needs? What needs do SP have? How do they differ versus services aimed at clients specifically? So, like I said, that's a series of questions I've got to kind of start with for this. And if anybody has any other things, then feel free to add them in. Anybody have any thoughts on any of these things here at all? To start with. Do we have people, hands up, is anybody an SP here? Do we have SPs here? We have at least one SP here. Yay, great. You are now representing the entire SP industry in this in this talk. What sort of services, what services do you currently offer, for example?
We're still storage, so we have our own API toolset for S3 and we utilize a lot of toolset.
Sorry, I should probably...
We're kind of like in between data onboarder and SP9.
we're kind of in board of data onboarder and SP, so we interface with clients and own the data for them, own the user, but also share deals and trade deals.
Okay. What is your current knowledge of FEM or experience of FEM or anything? I mean, is it something you've come across? You use it? Is this the first time you're hearing about it? Does it interest you at all, or not, or lots, or what's the?
I didn't realize this would all be an interview with me, an entire discussion. But,
Exactly.
I have knowledge of FEM. I'm one of the newest hires of Seal Storage.
Okay.
My background is product, so I'm really concerned about it in terms of product offerings to my customers,
Right.
As we onboard it, and how to utilize FEM to increase revenue from customers to be on board with their data.
Okay. When I was I was at ESPA last time, so I'm going after this. I'll be going to ESPA and Phil Vegas as well, and continuing on a lot more of these discussions with SPs and that. But when I was there last time, talking to some of the SPs, they were talking about things like those that have been around a while. They've got a bunch of sectors that are coming up to expiry, and they're like, okay, how do we manage all of the expiry process and everything? And also things like they quite often they're talking about making sort of one-to-one, almost reciprocal deals with other SPs. Kind of so one SP, like I said, they're kind of owning the customer, and it sounds like that's what you're doing. You're saying you've got your own APIs and everything. It's kind of you're acquiring the customers. They're using your products, of which the Filecoin storage is a sort of I guess a back-end part of that.
Exactly, yes.
Right. And then they're saying, well, they're doing almost one-to-one reciprocal deals with other SPs to kind of cross, maybe cross backup data or something like that. Their customer says, we want storage. Right. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So yeah, we started sort of talking about, how can FEM help with that process, for example. So we're talking about things like, imagine you had a smart contract that it's sort of maybe semi-permissioned in that it's you and another trusted SP that you have a relationship with, able to use this smart contract, but that it enables you to basically say, hey, here's this PCID or this deal ID or whatever, and we need you to take this on so that we've got another replica of it, for example, and maybe it accounts for that, and there's some sort of balance between the two of you. Maybe it's a reciprocal deal in some way, whatever. Does that sound like something that might be?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Cool. Anybody else got any kind of thoughts on this kind of stuff, sort of services SPs offer? Yeah, pass the mic. Small mics.
Thank you. I'm not super experienced in the SP front, but it seems I got the impression that a lot of SPs aren't themselves dev shops, and I wonder where the boundary, I suppose, lies between people developing on FEM and SPs themselves, who are maybe just more like infrastructure providers. And is there a big market of people who are providing services from SPs but are not themselves SPs? And how can we gear ourselves toward them?
Could you mention your background?
I'm on the DRAM team, so nothing to do with storage, actually, but always have a vested interest in Filecoin.
Yeah, that's why I kind of delineate between both a data onboarder and an SP, because we are the infrastructure. We also are I guess we'd be the client in this place. So I don't know how to answer. What was the question? Was it towards me? I'm not even sure.
It wasn't really a question so much as a thought more generally, but how are we gearing these toward SPs, or are we gearing it toward creating a new market for people building things for SPs but not actually being
Right.
SPs?
Yeah. Okay. So again, when I was at ESPA last time, I was asked by one of the SPs there, come on, bring developers along, because we want to meet developers. We've got things that we want done in some form or another. So we'd like to have, we'd like to either contract these developers to build something, or encourage them to build something, or whatever it might be. Tell them that what our requirements are. I think there's been sometimes a how should we say this, lack of coordination maybe between sort of the development side of Filecoin and the SP side, right? On certain levels, there's some that are very closely linked together within the two sort of camps. There's some that are not so much. Pardon me. For me personally, working within FEM, I learnt a lot when I kind of got going about what SPs exactly do, right? So it started off and it was kind of like, okay, here's a smart contract, you can put some stuff on and then your data gets stored, right? And it's like, ooh. And it's like, well, no, that's not quite how it happens, right? And a lot of it is down to things like SPs want to know who the customer is. So they don't want to just take on data from somewhere completely unknown because they have their own whatever, regulatory concerns and stuff like that. They want to know what the data is and where it's coming from and all that sort of thing. So it's kind of this merge of like the sort of open, permissionless, decentralized world of Web3 and Filecoin, which is a decentralized storage network, but then, again, fitting that within the reality of business in a lot of cases, which involves compliance, regulation, all of that kind of things, which don't kind of decentralize that well, right? So, yeah, so I think there are developers that want to, and as potential developers, we do hackathons, and it'd be great to be able to do a hackathon and say, okay, well, what things can be specifically built for SPs? What are their requirements? What are the gaps that they see that could potentially be filled as well?
I actually have one question. Sorry, you're the only store provider here. But I've also heard from either through other people that have talked to SPs or just talking to SPs myself that they prefer to actually know the customer and have some KYC process where they kind of understand what the customer is doing and what kind of data they're storing. I guess in this case where, for example, maybe there is some programmatic way where you can get customer data, what's the minimum set of information that you would want to know about a customer that maybe you could check via a smart contract somehow, very, very basic stuff. Yeah. But I guess what's your minimum level of comfort that you would be okay taking data from some smart contract?
Yeah, my background is with 2.0 cloud storage providers. So when it comes to that, also being American too, Department of Commerce regulations of if you can't deal with countries that are on the ban list there. So data coming from countries like Iran and North Korea, that's a no-go. So geolocation is very important for us in terms of that. When it comes to illegal activities and things like that, of course there is some data would be helpful about that, but mostly it's geo-focused. That's the biggest liability, I would say.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so one of the ideas I kind of proposed again, talking to an SP in Vegas, and they were saying 90% of their business is done over a beer and a handshake sat in Las Vegas, right? And I was saying, okay, and this was just after we'd had a big talk about Web3 and the future of decentralization and all this kind of stuff, and I was kind of like, okay, and I said almost the exact same question, Brandon. I was like, how would you take that process and articulate it in a smart contract? What would a smart contract need to do to replace that beer and a handshake and a geolocation and all that kind of stuff? And the idea was potentially if you form something that was almost a bit like a data DAO, in which there may be one contract per SP, and that they could configure in a certain way, or it might be one contract serves multiple SPs. But if you could take your rules, so say, just take geolocation as an example. If there was a smart contract of which you can be configured via something like Boost to automatically pick up any deals that come out of this smart contract, but you have said to the smart contract the only deals that it should actually approve are ones that are geolocated in a way that is approved by us.
I think that's really important, actually, especially when it comes to utilizing the data for the customer. It goes beyond that because, as we all know, when it comes to retrieving the data and utilizing it, latency is very important for those things like that. And if we are going to provide services in connection with other SP providers, it'll be important that we have, we sign deals that we can, write checks that we can cash in terms of SLAs when it comes to retrieval, SLAs when it comes to access to the data and providing, compute.
Right. And that's why I'm wondering whether if that's the suitable kind of halfway meeting point between the sort of the regulatory requirement sort of side and the kind of the wild west of Web3 kind of decentralized permissionless side, is if you can actually use a smart contract to be that kind of gatekeeper, and that gives the SP the ability to set whatever criteria they want to be adhered to. But then from the Web3 side, it's just you just interact with a smart contract and then the rest is taken care of, provided you meet the requirements. and there could even be a human element in there as well. So it could be that, you know, a request to store something gets registered with this smart contract, and then you have a sort of a DAO, like, you know, you have a voting mechanism, and maybe there's humans involved at some point for certain things that can actually check it over and go, yes, okay, we've checked this data out, we've checked this client out, we say that's all good, approve, and then it goes through the automated process, for example.
I mean, with the strong caveat that I am not a lawyer,
Yeah.
and I didn't come with any, you know, like, you know, this is, you know, for all intents and purposes, spitballing. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good starting point for sure.
Okay. Any other further thoughts on that?
I have another question.
Yeah.
So I see you have a bullet here on how would paid deals work. I guess in like out of the current set of clients that you have, my understanding is that most storage providers deal with clients in fiat. Is there like any use cases where you've seen that people would be willing to pay in the native currency, like Filecoin in this case?
Customers to us paying in Filecoin, or
Yeah, like they would pay for their storage services directly in Filecoin.
oh, not anytime soon. No.
Okay.
No, that's interesting. That's the thing that I've heard a couple of times here as well. So around that, there was the talk the other day on Banyan, you know, and again saying a similar thing about customers wanting to be paid in fiat, or you know, service providers want to be paid in fiat, and a lot of it is down to just that's what our accountants require.
Yeah.
Right. It's like.
Exactly that, yeah. When you're engaging with enterprise customers, when it comes to anything like that, if you say Filecoin, they're gonna be cross-eyed at you. Be like, what is a Filecoin? They'll Google it and they'll say, what is the blockchain know? So yeah, they want to do fiat, and you know that's our job to have a billing service provider to just strike like that. They deal with, like, you know, whether it is a credit card in America or SEPA in Europe. You know, that's our job to, you know, do all the accounting and all that, and the rest goes on to you.
Oh no, I just have another question. Sorry. So if the client was like okay paying, like theoretical situation, if there exists a client that like is willing to pay in Filecoin, like would you even like consider that? Like, hey, okay, cool, I will take on this client that's like paying me in Filecoin.
You were asking the wrong guy about
Okay.
that.
Because I think there's like a small, well, very, very, very small group of clients that like might fall in this category. And so just wondering like how we can build tooling for that. But
Oh yeah, you know, like I said, like, you know, my job is product and understanding, like, you know, like my target customer and who I can make the most revenue for, you know, like the largest market. So there probably is a person like that, but I'm not targeting them. And, you know, edge cases are always there, and probably there's somebody. And as we develop too, of course, yeah.
But right now it's like not worth, like the customer base is too small.
It's not even a thought. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I just have a follow-up question for you. First of all, thank you for sharing your insights. I think one thing that might be helpful for discussion also, as you are sharing your preferences and perspective, what type of customers you are targeting today? Like when you mentioned that enterprise clients, they need to Google like blockchain, Filecoin, like who are they? Are they your target customer, or they're a small, like a Web2 angle? Would love to hear, yeah.
Yeah, I can give you a kind of background where we're targeting and all that. So, yeah, we kind of see ourselves as a Web 2.5 solution right now, where we're targeting Web 2.0 customers that, you know, using Object Store right now, and they're looking for we see the best use case right now for Filecoin in its current state of development, being an archival storage solution. So, somebody that wants to utilize a third or fourth copy beyond the traditional cloud providers, even, you know, their local on-premise storage. Especially targeting because you want to do additive feature set, because you're never going to go dollars donuts with the cheapest, you know, low rate stuff. So we really want to advocate the blockchain based functionality and the immutability aspect of it, so that they can be assured that their data is secure, and they can get back the confirmation that it's untouchable and unaltered. But again, I'm only one SP use case out of.
That's why I thought it would be helpful to understand like what
Call
is your
for
angle.
backup. Call for backup.
There's a bunch of SPs like listening to me like, that's not me, that's not me, and then like running over here. You know, but.
Well, they should be here, damn it.
Exactly. They snooze, they lose.
Exactly. So we get to make it entirely in your your image of what it should be then. And yeah, okay. Yeah, I did think about that, the whole fiat, cryptocurrency thing. I mean, potentially there's a role for FEM there. I mean, one of the things that is currently going through at the moment, there's a vote going through to get Uniswap on FEM. And, there's potentially a role there that would enable people to be paying in fiat currencies, or at least stable coins, which may be close enough for them potentially, to then, interact back and forth with, Filecoin and other cryptocurrencies, kind of like dynamically in that way. I mean, another approach is there's entire companies that are built. So I used to work at Ripple. They do cross-border payment stuff using XRP, and their entire, one of their entire biggest sort of business offerings is enabling banks and mainly remittance companies to do cross-border payments without them having to touch cryptocurrency, right? So they've developed whole products that allows fiat to fiat with a cryptocurrency in the middle, but the remittance company has doesn't touch that. So from their point of view, regulatory point of view, it's fine. They get the functionality without having to get their fingers dirty. And I'm wondering if there's something similar like that we could look at maybe for SPs and within Filecoin. Cool. Okay, any other kind of discussions here? Any other points here about SPs? Anything that SPs would need from the Filecoin network? Brenda, do you see many people using, so you're working with Boost. Boost has functionality now for, taking on, observing events emitted from FEM with regards to things like that. From our discussions earlier, you're saying that you didn't think that was being used particularly at the moment?
I think it's like extremely. So unfortunately, this is anecdotal. Like I'm not checking what SPs are doing, but from what we've heard from SPs that I have talked to, it's basically like very low to like no usage. Just because of probably the fact that they're like unknown customers, or like actually, if you know of, I guess, people that have written these like client contracts, that would be interesting too, because then we can maybe observe and see what's happening to them. But
yeah,
I don't know of any right now, and I think there's some that I do know of, like there's the NFT Forever one, which obviously worked out well. I don't think any more have been developed after that. So at least not that I know of. So I don't think SPs are really using it.
yeah. Oh, this is going back. Somebody got the clicker. This is going through on its own automatically. Anyway. Yeah, spoiler alert. And actually, yeah, so we've got a talk from, I know, talking about Barracks, and we've got then another talk about actually client storage contract, which actually uses that functionality. So it will be interesting to see. And that's from within PL. But yeah, I think this seems to be all tying together and corroborating what's saying is that, the biggest issue is knowing who the client is. And, this whole fantastic automated, smart contract way of doing things, great. But without the customer data there, the knowledge of the customer, then it becomes. You've got a mic.
I just want to actually highlight and clarify. I don't think they need to know who the customer is, but certain parameters, criteria.
Right. Yeah.
Some information about customer, it can still be like, you don't need, because if they need to know the customer, that kind of like blocks the whole notion of the trust, decentralization, and privacy as well from customers' perspective. Just wanted to highlight. I think what we are trying to understand, what are the minimum criteria about the information customer in a smart contract that can make the SPs compliant and also comfortable with taking.
Right, and there's a number of solutions around decentralized IDs, right? And one of the big things that they one of the big features that they are looking to offer, a lot of them, is using things like zero knowledge proofs and things like that to be able to say, okay, I can prove that you are based in the USA, for example, without you revealing exactly what your address is, right? Because normally that works via some sort of third-party attestation from a government or regulatory body or whatever, and there's a lot of decentralized IDs. And I'd be interested to know, actually, I don't know if there's like most ones I've seen on that basis are working on the individual level. I don't know if there's like a corporate decentralized ID type thing. I mean, I suppose it's less of an issue there because you just go and whatever, ask whichever regulator or whichever accountant is working with them or something to attest to who they are. But again, a lot of those are based upon sort of Web3 technologies and smart contracts and all that kind of thing. So that could well be where another one of the sort of meeting points is if we can use some of these decentralized ID technologies. If FVM enables the use of them, then that could possibly, go towards solving that problem of, well, we're not going to accept data because we don't know who you are, right? So
I think maybe an issue for business, though, is that some of these things are not necessarily trusted by courts, and ultimately it's human processes that are coming down to judge whether KYC is sufficient or not, and saying, I ran a zero knowledge proof might not stand up to scrutiny when it comes to the human process, even if technically it looks sufficient.
Right. Yeah. And maybe this might be easier to solve on a corporate level because they're possibly going to be more likely to say, okay, we're happy to trust whatever Ernst & Young has said, and I would imagine that kind of like the big four firms and whoever are going to be creating some kind of equivalent like digital ID to prove that entity. I'd imagine. I haven't looked, but I imagine they probably would be.
I mean, one thing that comes important more and more here for us in SPs is like as we get bigger and bigger and taking these enterprise contracts, we want to deal with SPs that meet our standards in terms of data security and all of that. So with the assumption that if we've probably vetted a customer, they follow similar KY, know your customer practices that we do, so we can trust that the onus is on them to and vice versa, that they trust us to provide customers that are following regulations and rules and same.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I mean, it was one of the misconceptions I think I had when I first started with Filecoin is I thought there was originally like a built-in matching marketplace that matched clients with that had particular requirements with storage providers. There isn't really. I mean, there's the sort of Phil Plus registry that has certain information in there. And that has, for example, some geographic information of the SP. I mean, I think the client has to verify themselves, so there's a certain amount that may or may not be known there. Building some kind of matching thing. Because again, it's not going to be all service providers are going to have, all storage providers are not going to have the same requirements. There might be somewhere like, you know what, I don't care, I will take it on, right? If you pay me, I'll take it on. And there might be others that want, sort of stronger.
Yeah, like a tiered system, I would imagine, like levels of kind of like data centers, tier 1 through tier 4,
right?
Like redundancies and compliance and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, cool. Okay, I think we'll move on. I've got no idea how we're doing for time because we started off late, but if we so cool. And like I said, there's a discussion there, link there. There's a QR code there. So if people have like further comments, questions, discussions, you can go there. My colleague Sarah has started writing up. A bunch of this stuff and kind of thoughts around it as well. So you can definitely go there.
And just one note, since you are the only SP here, it might also interest you from the perspective that there are other feedback that our teammates collected in Singapore and prior SP conversations. So it would be great to capture your perspective there too.
Okay, great.
And I'm going to be. Are you going to be at ESPA or Phil Vegas?
No, I don't think so. My another person will be, not me though.
Okay. Well, I'll be there, so it'll be reversed. So I'll be there in a room full of SPs. So we'll get revenge back. So yeah.
It's fine.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.